Hi, my name is Jessica Alderson, and I'm an urban wildlife biologist for Texas Parks and Wildlife. Today I'm going to talk to you about different ways you can provide supplemental food for targeted wildlife species on your property to meet the requirements for the wildlife tax valuation. There are many management techniques that you can use to provide food for wildlife on your property. Some of these management techniques include grazing management, prescribed burning, range enhancement, food plots, feeder and mineral supplements, and managing tame pasture, old fields, and croplands. Depending on the species, wildlife get their food from fruits, mast, seeds, nectar, insects, and native browse and forbs. In your management plan, you will want to focus on a diversity of food sources that provides your targeted wildlife species food throughout the entire year. When you switch from ag to wildlife, you do not have to completely remove livestock from your property. In fact, you can actually use livestock rotational grazing to help improve the quality of the habitat for your targeted wildlife species. Prescribed burning can be used to enhance habitat and plant diversity and also increase food for your targeted wildlife species. At least 15% of the total acreage should be burned annually over a 7-year period. Enhancing existing range conditions by establishing native grasses and forbs will provide food for your targeted wildlife species. Annual activities should affect no less than 10% of the area or 10 acres, whichever is less. Forbs are a food source that many wildlife species utilize throughout the year. When developing your management plan, keep in mind that annual forbs are very rain dependent and do well with soil disturbance. Perennial forbs are the opposite. They are less dependent on rain and do much better in areas with less soil disturbance. There are many management techniques you can use to improve forbs on your property, many of which we have already discussed. Some of these techniques include prescribed burning, rotational grazing, light disking, planting, and even mowing. All of these techniques help increase diversity of forbs. Food plots can be used to provide supplemental food and cover for targeted wildlife species. You will need to establish locally adapted forage such as cool and warm season crops or annual and perennial mix of native plants. A minimum of 1% of the acreage should be planted. You can use feeders and mineral supplements to help meet the dietary requirements of targeted wildlife species during critical periods of the year. A minimum of 1 free choice feeder per 320 acres with at least 16% crude protein is recommended. If you are interested in providing food for wildlife, I encourage you to implement the practices we discussed today.